Teemo, terrorizer of multiple games, are one of the best hidden decks in Riftbound. We are going to be looking into what makes Teemo strong and weak, but also 3 different deck lists as well as gameplay to show you what he is able to do and not do. And not only that, where he possibly fits in this meta. All of that and more starting right now. So with this whole game just exploding and being brand new, it can be really difficult to know where to go and what decks to end up playing. So we are going to be starting this new series where we dive into each and every deck, and I thought Teemo would be sufficient. Everyone pretty much already knows what Kai'Sa and Yi can do, within reason at least, and we will still address those videos when it comes time. But the biggest thing is that we are going to be looking at maybe those more outlier decks. And the reason why I wanted to go with Teemo first and foremost is not only is he a very fun deck to be able to play, but he has a lot of versatility and also the ability to then go ahead and be extremely cheap to build. There's deck lists that we are going to be looking at that's going to be showing some Thousand Tail Watchers, which are going, of course, between $30 and $40 right now. But there was one that even ended up topping at, 30th place in China, and they aren't running anything like that. In fact, it is a very cheap deck to run, minus maybe 1 or 2 cards. And so this is something that is very dynamic here on what you can do, and it also has really great matchups into pretty much everything, and even can give Kai'Sa a very good game as well, and even potentially beat them on a regular basis. I would say maybe even 40-60 matchup so far. But I mean, at the same time, I'm still testing and figuring those kinds of statistics out for myself. And that's got to be one of the hardest things about this meta that we are finding ourselves in, is that we have so many decks that are, we have 2 main decks that are dominating the force and basically saying, this is the top 2. And it's almost forcing us to take a look and say, yes, those are the top 2. And that's the hard part, because I would even want to theorize if everything was at an even playing field, aka, we had 20 Kai'Sa decks, 20 Set decks, 20 Darius decks, so on and so forth, who then would be able to come out on top? We've seen that even when Kai'Sa is, 80, 50 to 60% of the field, not 80, 50 to 60% of the field in this case, that, of course, they are ending up in the top 8 being at least half the field most of the time. There's, of course, going to be outliers. But even so, we've been seeing some reports in China of there were 3 Kai'Sa wins, but a Victor ended up sneaking in and getting a first place. We saw, a Set that was able to break in, a Darius that was able to. And it's like, well, that's really cool and all. So where is this meta at? And it's like, yes, I will agree with you. Kai'Sa does have, pretty much the best consistency and power overall. The legend ability is one of the best in the game because of being able to cover the power cost of one power cost of a spell that you are playing. That is very powerful. But Teemo, this is really interesting because he also has a really great legend ability of being able to hide cards for literally just 1. You don't have to recycle. And that's really dynamic as well, because if you so choose, you can decide to recycle a card or just pay 1. So it's like, hey, if I really want to focus on building up my board state and get things moving, awesome, I am able to do so. And then at the end of my turn, I can still recycle the power cost to hide a card. Or if I happen to have 1 left, cool, I can then pay that, go ahead and play a hidden card. Now, with that, we are going to be looking at this deck in particular. Like I said, we have 3 deck lists to go over, including the one that I am playtesting right now, because I'm playtesting on debating on taking Teemo or Kai'Sa to Vegas here in about 2 weeks. And so we'll see how that ends up playing out for us. Now, I will say one of the biggest things here, strengths for Teemo, is that he has a really good in-game going for him. You're going to be able to get maybe a Thousand Tail Watcher or a Mundo or things like that to really devastate the board. You're able to go ahead and have a lot of versatility with that as well. If you want to go on a more budget option, you can go Mind Splitter, and still getting a Mind Splitter out and being able to remove 1 of anything is incredibly good. Not only that, getting hand knowledge is going to be vital as well. So that's going to be a really good budget option, even outside of maybe playing Thousand Tail Watcher. That's going to be the big thing. Now, again, we just discussed this, but the great legend ability of being able to go ahead and either, you're able to move Teemo around on the board. You activate him as the hidden card. Cool. Well, he's done his job. Let's put him back into hand so I can play him as a hidden card again. That +4 is so good. And even though your opponent might know that it is the hidden card in the battlefield, it might not be. And he's got to learn to play around that. You might be playing a fight or flight. You might be playing a bunch of other things that could very well be messing with your opponent. And that's going to be one of the best parts about this deck. You know the answers. Your opponent doesn't. They need to play around it. And that's going to be so difficult for them to be able to do. You're going to keep them guessing. Even after game 2, going into game 3, they're still going to be like, I know what hidden cards you have in this deck, but if it's this hidden card, that's going to devastate me. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to, recover from that. Now, with that being said, weaknesses, of course, is that it really suffers from removal. I'm not talking necessarily at the end game. When you have a 40 might Mundo that is, devastating your field and having, basically 20 might, there's very little that they're going to be able to do about that, which is awesome. But at the same time, you suffer from early game removal more than anything. That can be the hardest part. You're going against Kai'Sa in this case, and they're able to just go ahead and accelerate things on a regular basis and keep filling up the field and whatnot. And then you're going to have to go against them in that case, and you play out your unit, and they're like, okay, well, that's dead. It's blown up. And then you're like, okay, let's go ahead and play a stack deck, play out this unit that we found from stack deck, and they falling star it. And that's going to be the hard part because you don't necessarily have a whole ton of ways to maneuver around that necessarily. Yes, there might be some things. There's a deck that plays Flash in this case to help bring units back because a lot of Kai'Sa's abilities are going to be targeting those in battlefields. Falling Star is the main one that doesn't in this case. And that's the tough part too, though, because Flash is only able to be found in the Annie deck, and it's a $20 common. So if you want to go find that on TCG Player and play $40 for a common, good luck. So that's going to be really the two main struggles of this deck. And sometimes if you do end up going too slow in the early game, you're going to really struggle getting ahead at the end game. Likewise, though, and on the counter, if you're able to get a couple of points in the early game, you're able to go ahead and play something into the hidden ability, and you do fight or flight like someone attacking in, and you score another point, well, then the end game becomes extremely satisfying. And that's going to be something that's really interesting, too, because with the removal of, like, say, Kai'Sa Jinx or, anything red of that matter, you're going to be finding yourself then, up in the air on, well, if they go ahead and blow up my unit in a battlefield, my hidden card could very well just be a miss. Yes, you could play Teemo, and then that would still end up holding the battlefield. That's really good. But if it's something like Fight or Flight that you're hiding, it just kind of goes away. And so you're just kind of missing out on that. And so, again, you got to be very careful about how you might go about that and be a little calculated in reading your opponent's deck on what they could potentially be having in hand and then deciding that way. And so there's adjustments, of course, that you can certainly make with that. Now, with that, the first deck list. Now, this is the one that ended up getting 30th place at the 2,000 player National Open in China. Really impressive there. Now, this is fun. I really like the idea of this deck. You also will notice that there are no Thousand Tail Watchers. So the biggest thing that is going to be your expensive cards in this case are going to be the inverted timelines, which are really good. You're going to see that in the gameplay that we're going to look at for game 1. Really great stuff right there. And able to go ahead and discard all cards in yours and your opponent's hand and then be able to draw 4. Well, that's great because if Kai'Sa happens to be drawing really well and has like 5-6 cards in hand, all right, cool, discard all those and just refill with 4, and that can be a really big hit, whereas you might have 1 or 2 cards in hand and you go right back up to 4. So that's going to be really awesome. Guerrilla Warfare is going to be your ability to get something out of the trash and put it back into hand that has a hidden ability. And that can mean if your Teemo falls, awesome, you're able to put it back. Not only that, you could pick also Fight or Flight, Console to the Past, whatever else you might want that has a hidden ability and be able to properly utilize it so that you are able to continue to bring just a right and left swing to your opponent throughout this game. The rest of the deck is actually incredibly cheap. Convergent Mutation isn't all that expensive. Now, of course, the Flash, of course, will be, but that's not going to be necessarily something to focus on. You can easily switch that out. And put another unit in or something along those lines. If you did want to go up for another sprite call, you could. If you wanted to switch Flash out for a Mind Splitter to be able to go ahead and discard a card from your opponent, you also could even be going and running Rasa, which comes in the Jinx structure deck and is also very easy to pull as well. You run 2 of those, you're going to be sitting pretty because you're going to be discarding a lot of cards and moving through your deck so fast that you might just have to pay 1 power cost to be able to get out a 6-my unit. Really great stuff right there. That's going to be the big thing, though. I do love the invert timelines. It does make an impact. You could only just run 2. You might not need to run 3 in this case, and that could also be a nice little budget cut for you as well. But overall, this deck is incredibly cheap, and you can find a lot of versatility, and it's just such a fun deck to run. And I love the fact that you almost feel like you have a lot of the power because your opponent is going to be guessing which is every card. There might even be a time where you go ahead and you're playing and you're able to move your traveling merchant into a battlefield. You use your sprite call early on your next turn and go ahead and play it as a readied sprite and take the other battlefield as well. You go up 2 points just like that. Then you pay 1 to go ahead and hide a fight or flight in the other battlefield that you conquered with your traveling merchant, and you're sitting pretty, and you're going to be able to maybe even get a 3rd point. So starting just like that, 3-0, or even maybe 3-1 in this case, can be a very big difference maker and something very fun to see how that is going to work. And again, love how cheap this deck is, and that it was able to do so well. Keep in mind, this deck list went over 2,000 people and was able to get 30th. That's going against Kaisitz. That's going against Master Yi's. And even still, it was able to get 30th place. Great job from this competitor and a really fun deck to be able to see what it's able to do. Now, next, this one is one that got first at a tournament that I believe had 120 or so people in it. And it's kind of all over the place. I don't necessarily know how I feel about this, but that's because just my own preference in building. I do not like one-ofs very often. There are a few exceptions with that, just like with the guerrilla warfare in the past. That is a really helpful one. But outside of that, I don't normally try to run one because it's like, well, if I'm not going to see it, why would I play it? And that's something to keep in mind with this deck. Still, though, it's interesting that you're running 1 Yordle, 1, mutation and things of that nature, 1 flash. It's just kind of all over the place. Scrap Heap is one that is very interesting as well. It does go really well into inverted timelines because when you discard it with inverted timelines, you automatically draw a card and you'll go up to 5 cards in that case, which is pretty dang good. But at the same time, that is something that you can definitely switch around again and get that taken care of. So really fun stuff right there to be able to work on that. And then, of course, we have acceptable losses. Running 1 of, that's going to be mainly for your gear destruction. You can go against Darius, Set even. But biggest thing is going to be Aurora's. Heck, you could even take out Mask with Master Yi or Lee Sin in this case. It's just that little bit of insurance that you might need in your matchup. If you happen to not be going against something that uses gears, it's an easy sub out for game 2. If you are, though, you can definitely go all in on this. Fading Memories is a very interesting one as well, because if there are any big walls that are being put up, well, you're like, hey, you're gone. And that's going to be something really interesting to experience because, guess what? They're just not going to be able to score on the upkeep. It will be destroyed before that upkeep. Now, Tide Turner is a really interesting card, and you're going to see that in the first gameplay on how we utilized that. It's going to be fun because you can go ahead and switch out a unit. Also, a lot of the time, this is a great play in Kaisi, like even using like Falling Star and things of that nature, or even Void Seeker or things of that, to be able to take out a unit. You reveal your hidden card. Oh, you got another unit in the battlefield. They're going to have to use more utility or even still attack in and try to get around it. And that could be something that really helps benefit you in the removal matchup and trying to be more consistent with that. Absolutely love what this is able to do. Now, for the final deck, this is my build in this case. I am still play testing this and kind of finessing it a little bit, but it feels really good. And I'm still, of course, I think I've played maybe 4 games so far with Teemo, so by no means count me as an expert, but still it was something that was a really interesting gameplay that we were able to experience. Now, with that being said, keep in mind that we are going to be looking at 2 other players that have played in tournaments and done incredibly well with their Teemo decks. So we're going to be looking at some better gameplay of that. Everything's going to be timestamped, of course. Now, with that as well, I'm a little bit interested. I'm going to be probably taking out the Flash and the inverted timelines in the side deck. I don't necessarily feel like, well, I'm probably not going to get a Flash in hand. That's fine, and things of that nature. But the rest of the deck actually feels incredibly good. One of my favorite combos that I love to do is, even if you have like a Rasha or a Mundo in this case, you just go ahead and I'll play like a Tide Turner or a Traveling Merchant or something like that, attack into a battlefield, and then I'll play the Mutation, match Mundo, and we get like plus 17 added to our 2 might unit. That's insane. And that can be very difficult to try to even catch up with. Not only that, the end game, you go ahead and run into a Rasha. Cool. You get it out for 1. Sometimes, yeah, you will pay 3 in a recycle to get it out, but it's still a 6 might unit that you're getting out for 3. That's awesome. And that can really already start to shift the tide into your favor, and even, bait out some things where it's like, well, I don't want to have to deal with, Rasha, so I'm going to be falling starring it. And it's like, cool, well, next turn, I'm going in with Thousand Tail Watcher. Cool, next turn, I'm going to still have a lot of responses that I'll be able to do. One of the coolest combos that I absolutely love with this deck as well is, in the off chance that you do happen to be at 10, you can Dr. Mundo and Ride the Wind, and that could very well shift the tide as well, because you can devastate your opponent, taking over a battlefield that they've hunkered down, and then still be able to hold it and gain potentially 2 points just for that. It can catch your opponent off guard so much, and then even on top of that, if you so chose, you could even hide a card on top of that, and then say, okay, what do you got for me? So this is why I just absolutely love this deck. I'm playing around with a lot of the battlefields as well, still trying to figure it out. But this is going to be something that will be really fun to take a look at, to see what we, of course, are going to be able to do. Now, with this, of course, we're going to be going into the game a little bit. Let me go ahead and playback speed at 2x, just so you guys aren't bored the entire time. And this is going to be a fun gameplay to be able to see. So let's go ahead and put me up here and shrink. And yeah, stack deck is just going to be one of the best cards that you are able to see. We were able to get a stack deck, and that's what made us find our Traveling Merchant. But unfortunately, we weren't able to necessarily get things moving. So our first turn was Traveling Merchant and Stupefy to be able to, at least if anything, draw 2. That still is going to be pretty slow, but in this Teemo matchup, our opponent ended up not actually doing anything as well. So we're able to, get Traveling Merchant going and pass. Our opponent does have a lot of cards in hand, but likewise, so do we. And I am still tempted. Inverted timelines, especially when your opponent is up that much, you can even go ahead and, play out a couple of cards. And so I'm trying to figure out really the best time to go ahead and get some things moving here. Now, this is going to be interesting to go ahead and play a hidden card and see what we are able to do. The Monk is an interesting one, and I can see why a lot of decks that are winning right now aren't necessarily hiding it or playing it. And it's because, if you're not necessarily able to then hide a card and take a battlefield, it ends up just more so falling flat. And it's really good with like Bobble, sure, but it's very interesting to go ahead and see what's able to happen. So we're going to go ahead and activate our hidden card to be able to draw 2, and then we're going to Ride the Wind over, and that's going to be good as well because that will force the Gust out, putting it back into hand. Now, of course, we still do have the Teemo, which is nice to have as well. That's going to be able for us to score a point and see what we're able to do. Likewise, now, of course, he's going to be hiding a card, and that's going to make the Ember Monk go up to 6. So that's something that we're going to have to potentially deal with as well. And so it's like, ooh, how are we going to be able to maybe finesse this? This is going to be interesting. And so we're going to go in to the battlefield, take it with Teemo, go up to 2. And, you know, there's a couple of different plays that we can go, but we still want to get more units out into the base so we can continue to maintain some stuff. So we're going to stupefy the Monk, and then we're going to gust it. And this is going to be able to, if it is like a fight or flight or something like that, it is going to be wasted. Otherwise, though, still, they are going to have to extend it or expend it and play it and get the effect to be able to save Ember Monk, and I'm okay with that. Whoops, and accidentally hit a card. So let's go ahead and hide another one in this case and see what we are able to do. And of course, this is going to be our tide turner. So right now you're already seeing a big difference in cards in the trash. I'm at 8 and he's at 4, and that's going to be paying a big impact here later in the game. So we're going to go ahead and gust back Teemo to see what's going to be potentially happening, and they're going to gust us as well, which is going to force us to play our hidden card, which is going to go ahead and I'm going to have to go ahead and switch that out and put Teemo back into hand, which is no real loss, but we're able to get a traveling merchant into the battlefield, discard and draw 1 for that move as well. So good, and get things moving. And so again, we're going to be able to score on the upkeep, and he's able to put Mundo out, but again, that's going to be a Mundo that is getting +5 right now, but you have to put back 3 every single time, and I'm already at the I'm already at 10. So that's why I'm opting to go ahead and do Thousand Tail Watcher instead, go up to 3 in this case. That's going to take out Ember Monk, no problem. The opponent is completely tapped out, and again, I'm still debating on when to use the inverted timelines, and that's going to be the biggest thing, especially with how many cards my opponent has in hand. The Mundo is the big reason why I'm like, I don't want to use it just yet, because already having 11 cards in hand, you know, it's a Mundo that's at 9. Okay, cool, you know, that's not necessarily a big deal here. And so Thousand Tail Watcher, of course, is going to be coming in, minusing 3 from everything. And we're okay with that, really. That's not necessarily a huge deal. But Teemo coming in here is going to be a big difference maker, because he's going to add 4 in this case to go ahead and make it, you know, where we're at 8 to 7. And that is devastating. The Thousand Tail Watcher pretty much done, and he'll take out mine as well. That's fine. I don't care. And take the other battlefield. And this is going to be the interesting shift where we really try to start getting ahead as they pass over. Now, in this case, I believe this turn I also forget to score on the hold. That's fine, whatever. So we're going to be 1 away from doing Contagion here, but we're at least going to be able to get Mundo going, and that is going to be +13, which is just, I mean, so good. We're okay giving up a point at this point as well, because we are up so much with Dr. Mundo, and they don't have a lot of removal in the Teemo deck, which is what they can really struggle with. So at this point, we're also going to continue to play Teemo back out as a hidden card again, just in case if we need a little bit more insurance, though I think we are in a very good spot. And the next turn, we are finally going to invert timelines. Even though he's at 9, there might not be a whole lot that he's able to play in this case. And so he's going to go ahead and tap 1. And it looks like we did score. Yeah, we did finally at that point. That's the hardest part for me. Sometimes I just completely forget to do stuff there. And so, yeah, that's going to be a really good turn right there as well. Going to go ahead and reinforce some things, make it a little scary for us. And especially with 3 up, you're like, yeah, this is not good. So, of course, with Mundo, we do have to go ahead and put 3 to the bottom. So we are going to select 3. Mundo goes down to 10. Now we're going to go ahead and stupefy, draw 1. And Ride the Wind is going to be really interesting as well. And that's going to be a bit of insurance, because in case the hidden card forces back is like fight or flight in this case, well, we're still going to be able to then move our Mundo over and then just absolutely devastate our opponent that way. So there's nothing that he's going to be able to do here outside of if it's a fight or flight. And that's a big reason why we attacked in this case, for this option. Also, no cards played on top of that. And I mean, we destroy everything and take the battlefield still, which is such a shift there. And then we play Sunderer just in case for that insurance. Then we'll go 3 and recycle 1 to go ahead and invert timelines to discard his hand and draw 3 as well, or draw 4 as well. And oh, a time warp is discarded there. That's actually something I didn't realize. But we're up to 6 at this point. Our opponent has 5 cards in hand. Mundo is at 14. Our, Tide Turner is not. And so that is going to be the game. Just a really great gameplay right there as well. So we have 2 other games that we are going to be looking at to bring you really great gameplay. We're not going to be doing the full matches, but I will link the full matches down in the comments for you guys to watch below. But man, I'm really impressed with what Teemo's able to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at game number 2.
A 2 drop down in this matchup. Like I mentioned with the holding, you want to be on the battlefield early. I would assume the Poro is going to go into Dreaming Tree here. It's going to be very difficult for the Teemo to take over that battlefield anytime soon. When you combine the Ari ability with all the pump spells that he might have if he leaves any runes up, it'll be very interesting to see what he does here.
Yeah, decides to play out another 2-drop and directly onto the Dreaming Tree, trying to do exactly what Ari wants to do best, is just hold down a single battlefield. So going to be holding it down with a total of 5 might, effectively 7 might, and who knows, even more with that potential, I was going to say comeback trick, but speaking of comeback tricks, the Gust taking up to the hand that Raven Bloom, unless, no, it's a 3 energy, so you can't even buff it up over a certain limit. Oh no, 3 might. Okay, I thought it was 3 energy.
3 might, yeah. If he had a buff spell, he could have potentially got around that, which is interesting. But I guess the logic there, if he plays the student to base, because I would have thought you most likely go to base there, but it's an interesting play. But I think guarantees you're still going to hold Dreaming Tree. Whereas if you just if you play the student to base, he'll just gust the power and then he'll move in and take it. So I think it's an interesting way to do it. Makes a lot of sense. Secures that hold. I don't think Teemo will likely have enough to be able to come in and take that power out this turn. I'd assume you just go into Warrens. You can start to recycle your hand a bit and start to find those key pieces.
Yeah, we'll see where he ends up. Okay, discards another stack deck. So just 1 left in the deck, perhaps in the hand. No, most likely, it's very unlikely he has another one, but goes ahead and discards it, draws another one, and Gus the Poro trying to slow things down for the Ori player, saying, I don't want you holding down and getting any points on your next turn, but thinking about a Defy as early as that opening. Okay, I respect that. You do want to get those points early.
Yeah, it's a lot of tempo. I think that's a good idea. Keep the tempo going. Interesting, you see there Teemo bounces Teemo champion to hand, shuffles the hand, and I assume he's going to hide something mysterious at the battlefield. Right. So we're not sure what it is. But
we have no idea.
We're going to work on the process, most likely a Teemo. There's a few other options. I mean, we're looking at the key cards that a lot of these decks play. Things got things like Fight or Flight. Consult the Past is really good, especially in Teemo. You have, for one mana, you can just draw 2, which is a great combo. But it's a real guessing game, this matchup, trying to figure out the best way to play it. Interesting, goes back into the Dreaming Tree with the student. He seems adamant on getting both there. I would have thought you could be looking to potentially bring the Pyro back and start to set up a combat on Zon Warrens in a couple turns time. But interesting, he's really committed to holding the Dreaming Tree, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Maybe just thinking he's already ahead on points, 2-2, but of course it does favor Ari in terms of she will get there first. So Teemo does go up to 2 himself. Perhaps Ari knows 2 Gusts have already been expended for the Teemo player, so there's only 1 more Gust. I'm not too sure if there's any other cards that get rid of these units. I know Fight or Flight just puts it back into the base, right? So it doesn't effectively remove it. Able to move it the following turn, but goes for at least a Traveling Merchant I saw, but he played it on the battlefield. It went to the side. Okay, decides to play it onto the base there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with blue-purple, there's not a lot of outright removal. I think when you're looking at things, it'll have things like Stupefy, maybe a smoke screen in there. There's a lot of defensive spells like Flash, and you mentioned Fight or Flight there as well. But unlike when you're playing like a red deck that has lots of Void Seekers, Falling Stars, there isn't that many kill spells. I think it's a lot more combat manipulation spells, but then you've got the other side of that where Ari is doing the same thing back to you. So it can be a very difficult one to go into with this. I think there's lacking a little bit of removal, and there we go even more with the Sunlit Guardian. We are going very, very defensive here.
I believe definitely not leaning towards that later game package as we saw PewQ win, because I think Sunlit Guardian is more of a mid-range type of deck, holding down or able to pressure when you can and then protect when you need as well, with a shield and a tank ability. So I don't think this Dreaming Tree is going anywhere for Ori. She's just trying to lock it down. I'm trying to think of any possible cards for Teemo to try to conquer that Dreaming Tree, and things aren't really ringing a bell. That's a total of 6 plus the 2 plus whatever combat trick she wants to add on that Raven Bloom, and without any effective accelerate, without being even a Sprite Mother, right? You get to 3, 2, 5. Yeah, not looking too strong, or not strong enough, I should say, to take down that Dreaming Tree. So Ari's looking pretty good. She's looking pretty good in terms of just holding that down and keep stacking up points round or turn after turn until she gets to that nice winning 8 point. So we'll see. That's a whole lot of runes. Is that a Watcher?
A Watcher? Yes, it is. Interesting. The problem with this is when you're playing into the Ari matchup, if you move in multiple units, they're all getting -1. So if anything, you're giving her more value. But you see they go down to 3 here, but they're actually going to go back up to 4, got to 5 with the 2 shield +1s. And then the Watcher will go down to 6. So really, you're only 1 pump spell away from losing this matchup, which is a very scary place to be. I think if we see just a Discipline or an On Guard, the Ari will actually hold, which is going to be hugely problematic.
Yeah, huge indeed. Because then at least if one of these units survive, there goes the Discipline. Raven Bloom goes up to 2, make that 4, because the target will be Raven Bloom. Well, 2 and then +1 more, right?
I don't think go up to 4.
That.
Yeah, there you go. Go up to 4, and he should draw 2. He draws 1 for the Discipline, draws 1 for the Dreaming Tree. It's such a strong combo. When you're paying 2 runes to get a +2 and draw 2, it's completely changes the complexion of the card.
Ooh.
And here we have another one. So he won't draw for this one, but he will comfortably win the combat.
Yeah, and it looks like he's forcing the Watcher to try to trade with 2 units rather than just 1. So now Raven Bloom's sitting pretty. That Traveling Merchant won't be nearly enough to take down the Raven Bloom. So she will most likely be holding for another point on her following turn, bringing her up to 4. Traveling Merchant thinking about, do I want to maybe just discard and draw a card just to look through more cards for these next turns? I mean, your only option is to send it to Zon Warren. Do you want to do that, or perhaps hold it back, maybe try to use it to get it to the Dreaming Tree a following turn? If you have a secondary Watcher coming up, it looks like he passes the turn, doesn't want to do anything with the Traveling Watcher. Now, what does Ari have in mind? She does get that score out. At it here now.
Yeah, I wonder if we start seeing the Ari Legend come down. I think we're getting to that stage, maybe not. Oh, another Sunlit Guardians. There's just tons of tempo. It doesn't look like they are happy just to shake hands and just keep holding. And like you said, because Ari got on the battlefield first, she will hold to 8 first between the two. I can't really see much of a way that Teemo gets on that. I think, like I said, maybe last turn if he had 1 extra rune, he could have fight or flighted the Raven Bloom student and taken the conquer that way. But yeah, certainly looking like a pretty difficult position. And Ari putting down her own hidden card. I think that is most likely Zonya's. I can't think.
That's exactly what I have in mind as well. Most likely just trying to
I'm pretty sure
that
has to be
Guardian.
Zonya's, but yeah, no, absolutely.
Could be a cheeky like Blasco and Faye, but I really highly doubt that. Throwing it back over to Teemo. Does he have another Watcher, and will that even be enough? Perhaps it will be this time. But there's so many runes, but one thing to keep in mind for the Ori player, there's only 2 cards left in her hand. So whether it is a Discipline, at least that does recycle back another card, but it's very unlikely that the exact 2 cards they need to try to hold things down, hold that Dreaming Tree down against the Watcher, are exactly in her hand. So if it is another Watcher, which it looks like it's not, instead will be another Traveling Merchant getting played onto the base. Traveling Merchant will go ahead and trigger its ability, discard a Teemo champion, draws 1, and now he has 6 total to make that 7 total runes to work with. That's enough to play a Watcher, but not enough for that accelerated additional cost. So this turn not looking like he's going to get too much done.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder why. I'm curious to see, 'cause obviously, yeah, but it's obviously with the Aria, you want to keep the mystery up by having runes up as to what it might be. Oh, interesting. We see a Jinx get played.
That is interesting. The one when you discard. So a bunch of synergy with Zone Warren. But wait a second.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you have played the Jinx first?
I was thinking that if you move the merchant first, you will. I mean, you'd ready it and would go to 6, so maybe that just doesn't help that much in the sense that it doesn't give you an important break point to be able to try and tackle that dreaming tree. Just even more students. The problem with the students is you've got to factor in the math that if they do have any pump spell, they're now getting an additional +2. So something like a discipline would be a +4 at this point. So yeah, very scary situation for the Teemo player, and we are getting close to the sort of time warp potential coming up soon. If they throw Ari on the battlefield, that's also a way that they could potentially hold to win. So yeah, starting to get a little bit dicey here for the Teemo player if they can't mount some sort of assault onto Dreaming Tree.
Dicey indeed, and I think both of these players are playing the exact same game, just hold their own battlefields and pray for the best, but it will be favoring Ari, as we said before. She's ahead on the point tempo, so as you mentioned, is there anything? I mean, there's some strong units in the back line now that Jinx can get up to potentially 6, but each card you discard, it's 1 additional might, I believe. When you discard 1 or more cards, Ready Man give you +1, right? So you could potentially go 6,
so if you move
7.
So if you move in with, if you move both, I won't make a joke there, but if you move in with both, you would then be able to get up to 7. Ooh, the Mundo. Interesting. Interesting. You don't see Mundo played to base very often. That's a slightly unusual play. You usually use him to go in because it's a 12 now. Next turn it will go down to a 9 as you recycle 3 at the start of your next turn. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do from here in terms of mounting an assault. It looks like we're building up for a big attack next turn. And even more interesting to get rid of the fight or flight. That seems like a pretty pivotal card in this situation, because if you can push back a student, that really opens up the battlefield to make life easier for you.
Yeah, especially with considering that Jinx and potentially that Traveling Merchant bringing a total might of 8, right? You push back a Raven, he has effectively 4 might with the shield 3, 4. So Ghost still sends the Jinx into Dreaming Tree. Gonna be coming back down to 5 because of the Ari ability. The shield does trigger, so doesn't even get rid of 2 total units here. This is gonna be very interesting decision by the Teemo player.
Yes, I don't know if he's just feeling a bit concerned. Maybe there's a bit of panic going on that you're wondering you're running out of time a little bit. But that certainly is an interesting play just to trade out 1. I think he's probably trying to angle the Mundo for next turn to be able to move in and take control with it there, and then you can sort of start to mount it, because realistically, if you're looking at Ari's spot, she can't get onto the Zon Warrens at all, so you're safe there. But I agree, that does seem interesting. It also would seem strange that you wouldn't have, if you'd kept the Fight or Flight, you've got 2 runes up, so you could have Fight or Flighted the Sunlit Guardian and then potentially trade into both of the students, because they're sitting at 2 each and you had 5. So it does seem like a strange sort of combination of plays that we just saw there. I think, yeah, the Fight or Flight is a very, very powerful card, especially at reaction speed. So
yeah, one of the best cards I would say from Teemo, or that Teemo can run. But as you mentioned before, potentially something crazy like a Time Warp won't get the job done now, but goes for 5. Oh, no, there's definitely not enough with the Zari going, but that means she will win the following turn. If Dr. Mundo won't be enough, but what does it come down to? It comes down to 11 effective might versus the, I mean, when we're talking about Raven Blooms, do we really know? I mean, we have 3 cards in hand. We saw at least 1 discipline before, so potentially 1 more in the hand. That goes 4. 2 more. No, 4 total. Yeah, things are tough. Math definitely mathing, having to be done for the Teemo player.
I assume, you've got to assume he has a plan, because there's no way the Teemo will just be able to walk this Mundo in there and conquer it for free. I mean, you're currently sitting 8 against what will be 11. So in other words, that goes down to 10 with the Ari ability. So you're only 1 pump spell away from potentially being in trouble. Whether he might have another Jinx in his hand that he can then move the Merchant to ready the Jinx, you go in together, that would be enough. I can't think they'd be able to get over that much might if you moved in all at once. But yeah, certainly an interesting situation.
Yeah, and keep
think
in
the key will
mind
be
they
here.
have 2 merchants, so they could trigger that Jinx ability more than one time, but decides to play out the Yordle. Still has enough runes to play out that Jinx if they choose to do so, but checking all their options before committing to the play. Gonna go for the flight or flight that we
There's the
thought
fight or
got
flight,
discarded.
okay.
Wait, that's the 3rd one. Look at the
That's
other one in
another-
the discard.
Yeah, that's another one. So that is interesting. I'm surprised he didn't. If we had that last turn, I'm surprised he wouldn't use that last turn. Now, I think one of the key things here will be, does he want to move the merchants first? So you want to, sequencing here is very important to make sure you add those extra couple of cards to trash. I know you see it a lot with the sort of Annie Vi decks, where if they can even squeak out 1 or 2 more cards in the discard, it can be the difference in these fights. Decides to go, it is 12 against 4, so you're probably safe. I think it'd be surprised if there's much Ari can do to overtake this much, but he'll play a Find Your Center to ramp and draw a card.
Yeah, just to take advantage that a showdown is triggered here, so might as well get that action deployed. So as you said, draws and ramps. You do get +2 might onto that Dreaming Tree for those Raven Blooms, but it's not going to make too much of a difference with that Dr. Mundo having... Actually, no, you did discard 2, bringing up to 13, -1 down to the 12. So this is right. Zonya's, as you predicted, does get triggered.
Yeah, so we'll save one of the students. I think, yeah, as we have learned before, I know this is a question that comes up quite a lot. If multiple units die at once, it's the owner of the Zonyas who can pick the unit. Obviously, in this case, it's 2 students. It doesn't really make much of a difference, but we had this come up in one of my games last week where the guy had a Fey Folk, and he also had, I think it was a student, and then he got, then he was obviously able to choose the Fey Folk to save, which makes a big difference. So important note to note there for anyone that does play these sorts of decks, that is how that operates.
Whoa.
Interesting, we now reveal the Teemo. Tap the
Looks
Teemo.
like
I
he
assume we're
wants
now
to-
going to
I think he's
bounce the
thinking about
Teemo.
hiding it in the other
bounce
spot.
the Teemo.
That has to be the play he's thinking
Nice,
about.
I like that play. He'll actually recycle for it as well, which is interesting. So very keen to keep 4 runes up. I think that will, I imagine there's some sort of play, or he'll hide one at both. But interesting to do it by recycling. I'm guessing he's, in his mind, this is kind of the final push. You know, a lot of pressure on Ari to take both battlefields here. It's not going to be easy. Now that he's got up to 7, I think it'll be very, very curious to see how the Ari can mount this. So like you said, the charm here could be absolutely essential. I think the thing when you're hiding a card with a unit with 1, on a battlefield with 1 unit, a Charm the Mundo means you have to trigger the hidden card, which can make a big impact. So it'll be interesting to see if he has any of those in the main deck, or like PQ last week, maybe they're in the sideboard.
Yeah, we will find out probably very soon, but I'm wondering, does this Ari player have a Watcher, and is Watcher enough even to take down Dr. Mundo? Because Ari's at that nice, sweet spot of 6 total might, but doesn't deploy a Watcher, which tells me she does not have it. Instead, tries to go for the Zone Warren. A total of 6 might currently,
6
potentially
against
more.
6 at the moment. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the hidden card here is. Because if he did hide the Teemo again, that goes to 4, so you'd be looking at 10, which is a lot to get over. Interesting. Oh,
wow, the plays.
Wow, that's a cool move.
The Tide
There we
Turner,
go.
turning the tides. When you play me, choose a friendly unit and move me to its original location. So trading spots with
Ooh.
Dr. Mundo. Incredible play. So, oh my goodness, Dr. Mundo survives.
That'll
and
do
you
it.
get the conquer. Wait a minute. No, I think that was a concession. That
I
was
think
a
it's
concession from Ari.
Yeah, he conceded. But wow, I didn't see that card. And that's the thing with Teemo, especially if you're not familiar with it. There are so many hidden tricks. I mean, I'm slowly getting used to more and more. But that Tide Turner, what a play that is.
So yeah, I gotta say, I'm really impressed with Teemo. I think he has really good board presence. I've played a bunch of games against Kai'Sa. I've played, I think 2, not a bunch. I played 2 or 3 games against Kai'Sa so far, and it has been incredibly close, where it's been 7-8, or or even I've been able to win out on it. I think I lost one 6-8 in that case as well. Very close games. You just got to calculate yourself out a little bit better in this case. Hope that your opponent misses a little bit, but when you get those answers, you are able to overwhelm your opponent so much. And especially if Kai'Sa really starts missing on a lot of that power and acceleration, they can really start to fall behind, and you can get ahead. This is also even just a great matchup for going against Yi as well, though you do have to be a little bit careful about their defies. Otherwise, this has some really great matchups all in all, and is such a powerful deck, one that you got to just keep an eye on, because man, it can be devastating. You do have to be careful about the early game. that inconsistency can sometimes just set you back. If you're not able to get a unit out in the beginning, you just move pretty slow. And if your opponent gets a couple of points up on you, you might not be able to come back in the end game. But still, it's a really great deck. I'm excited to see what it's able to do. We're still debating on what we're going to be playing in Vegas, a Kai'Sa or a Teemo, but we'll see. And we're going to be bringing you guys more and more gameplay as well. We're going to be diving into Darius, Set, all of these decks to be able to let you better know what you should build as this new game continues to develop and we can see what maybe we are able to discover with where this is all at in the meta. It's going to be a really exciting time. I'm excited to see where this is all going to go. But until next time, guys, have a good one.